Hi, time for a new episode of Public Speaking Black and White, and today I want to talk to you about politics, as if there were nothing more interesting to talk about on a fine day like this. But more seriously, I want to talk to you about politics in the context of public speaking training, because there is something about it that you may be missing and that may be of interest. So let's start with a simple question. Just think about your country's leading politicians and ask yourself this question. Is there anything really annoying, irritating about them, most of them? And what kind of qualities would be responsible for making you instinctively feel annoyed just by watching them or listening to them? Now, there are various categories of behaviors and patterns that we're generally annoyed or irritated by. And let's start with the body language. First thing you notice about them is that their body language is as if cast in concrete. Basically, they look a bit overtrained. You will see most of them enjoying the popular gestures, like the most typical popular one, or a variety of it, like this. So a fixed body posture that looks unnatural after some time, especially when you see a politician looking like that all the time, every time they stand in front of the camera. The other category, also linked to gestures, is when I think about Poland's leading politicians, the things that come to mind is, for example, a tendency to over-gesticulate. For instance, when there is something emotional they refer to, some of them would be waving their hands rather aggressively to emphasize their points, like that. Combined with a certain facial expression, chances are you will instantly think there is something immature, if not infantile, about such behavior in a seasoned politician, especially. And then there are other categories that we think are generally annoying. A tendency to exaggerate things, to use too many buzzwords, to use a lot of fluff, which essentially means you talk for quite some time and you say really nothing memorable, nothing worth remembering. So lack of charisma is obviously one of the big sins of politicians in general. Now, why am I talking about it in the first place, and what's the connection with public speaking training? It's a very interesting one. Politicians happen to be among those people who use public speaking training on a regular basis, whether it's non-verbal communication or specific areas that require improvement, like the way you behave in front of the camera, the way you behave on the stage, how to build a proper speed or a proper presentation. There are different segments on the market which cater to the needs of respective groups. So politicians would go through all those training programs. So the question is, how come after all these years, an average citizen like yourself or myself, just watching a politician sees something that is instantly annoying and they are not aware of it? For instance, let's take another example. There's a famous politician in Poland whose dominant facial expression is sarcastic. Now, if you imagine this person talking about something positive, it would almost seem fake, because this person is so full of negative energy when addressing his audience that you instantly feel you don't want to trust a person who's so negative about everything. And it becomes part of your facial expression, as if it were imprinted on your face. And so again, the interesting and important question here is, if trained professional politicians are unable to spot the very things that are easily changed, like a certain expression or the way they speak, intonation patterns, being a bit boring, of course, lacking in creativity and an ability to come up with interesting ways of explaining problems to different target groups and different audiences. So if those politicians who are professional public speakers don't see the things that are easily changed about them, and you do, what does it help explain about you? Well, if you don't go through all those training programs, chances are there are lots and lots of things about your presentation style that you don't even see. The thing about ourselves standing on the stage is we generally think we know how it's done, we know how it should be done, but we never develop enough self-criticism skill, constructive criticism skill, and we never develop enough eye for detail. Now, the easiest way to do it is to record yourself speaking and analyze it, preferably with someone who has some knowledge, who will help you see the things that you can't see. So essentially, in most training programs, there would be two areas to focus on. A lot of coaches would sooner or later try and show you different ways which are universally accepted. For instance, the way of sort of standing in front of the camera. So general posture in front of the camera, like the opposite of what I'm doing now, more or less relaxed. And then there is the category of training where you're exposed to a lot of camera work. You're asked to improvise on a number of issues and a number of topics, come up with short presentations, short speeches, and then you watch it together with your coach and ask questions, look for alternative ways, explain how it could be done better, more effectively, how to change your structure, how to get rid of the first 5 minutes of your customary introduction where you waste everyone's time. So that's the thought for you. See you soon.